Exams, for one, really are an element of systemic violence. We don't even see how it's happening. We think it's okay. It's okay for just a few to pass. And then we label those who fail. And then the few who pass, according to that argument, the few who pass begin to think that those who failed because they are lesser than us, they lack what we have. And this is a cyclical system of abuse.
Mm.
Because for children now, it becomes a threat. If I don't pass, if I don't pass. And the parent will reinforce it and say, usipopita, usikuje hapa. So do we need exams? That is a discussion, a debate that is going on. There are people who say, please do away with this result, with this exams, because this result, what does it really mean? Does it work for late bloomers? That people will develop a little slowly, because even the whole system of every 2-year-olds should be able to do this, still they refer to it as systemic abuse, because some 2-year-olds will do this, some 2-year-olds won't do this. Can we have programmed learning so that how far are you? More looking at the mental age, how far are you? Okay, so move this way. How far are you? So move this way. So exams are controversial. And for me, as I looked through the school fires, and especially looking at the boys, I saw a direct link between conflicting passing in exams, say with manhood, with success in life, with everything, and school violence. That link was almost direct.
There's something you said that I want to link to what we've just talked about exams. The boys feeling that their self-esteem is attached to how they perform in exams. So could you also now rope that in with football? Because, when people hear outside the school, when they hear the boys went on a rampage because they couldn't watch football, people start saying, oh, these kids are so spoiled. They just want raha instead of working hard.
It looked so strange that people didn't understand that. So I really needed to talk about it, because being a man is a social construction. It's a social construction. So there are ways of being a man. There are ways. So those ways, for instance, you need to pass exams. You don't choose girly courses, which is also a really bad thing I find for children.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity, for lack of a nicer word, that definition of masculinity sometimes has pushed children to choose subjects they can barely manage. So in the end, they do really badly. It's a self-defeating argument when I think about it. They do very badly, while they could have actually done very well if they had chosen subjects based on their self-efficacy. Who am I? What can I do? What am I competent in? So the other marker of masculinity is football. Okay, there's a whole area about masculinity and sports, but football is one of those. It's the key definition of male. So when you switch off that TV, that they don't watch football, at that point, you're not talking about time needed to study and they need to go to bed. What you have done at that point is attack their masculinity, and they'll push back. Some of these literally go home and watch football with their fathers through and through. And here you are switching off TV just before a match ends. And this is wanaume football. Some of the students were telling, but wanaume football, not switch off TV, nini. So For us who are out here, we are thinking, you know, Rebecca. No, it's not for Rebecca. There needed to be a better way. When I was talking to the teachers, I was telling them that there needed to be a better way. You know, you could actually have negotiated with these students, tell them, okay, this is what we are going to do because you need to sleep. We will record this match, okay? And then you will watch it later. You come to a compromise. Because for these boys, this was an attack on being
on the self.
And on the self. And the self here is a man. Wanaume must defend their manhood. And they will do it.
I'm in literature, that's my training. People must have a ritual to mark the end of a cycle. And that's what these students were doing. They were simply having a ritual and mocking. You know, part of the rituals is mocking power and authority. That is part of it because for 4 years, they have been obeying authority. They have been being beaten. And we need to talk about the violence in schools. So they're just having a ritual saying, this is the end of it. All the people I feared, I can now shout back at them. So that's all this was. If schools don't want students to have these kinds of rituals with very bad language, can they just slaughter a goat or a cow for the students, have a nice going away ceremony? That's how you stop that kind of rude, crude, let me call it crude, that kind of crude mockery of people in power. But it's absolutely normal for people who have felt oppressed for a long time to shout back at those whom they consider responsible for their sorrows.
What you had told us, which really struck me, you had said that it seemed men were stereotyped to be in politics at the front of the newspaper, sports at the back, and business in the middle. And men who didn't fall in those three categories got dropped. They were dropped out of the scene. And so you were thinking of those men when you were writing a column. I don't know how that fits into.
Yes, I think yeah. I mean, it's a good reminder. One forgets, huh? But yeah, because there was this idea that I mean, and I think later on I probably won't talk about sort of Daniel Moy. There's this idea of sort of a very sort of national sanctioned masculinity, right? Sort of certain things we sort of expect of our men, and the visuals that we have had about men. So we tended to, in your younger days, your heroes tend to be sports people. And then in your early years, like sort of post-college, you tend to be business leaders, you know. So we're all reading Richard Branson, and we're all reading, all the top business leaders of the world, because those are the people you want to sort of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, those are the kind of people who sort of become, you have to know them. And then later on, as you sort of get into sort of a little bit of political consciousness, now they become politicians, and you sort of go for very high ideals of politicians, and preferably the ones that are dead. So you can't quite, so we all start echoing Sankara,
Lumumba,
so we become very big on our sort of political heroes, ideals. So, but then there's this what we call the Kawida guy, so you're not really, you're lousy at business, you're lousy at making money, you really have no political spine, yours is all about all about survival, and you particularly don't even follow sport, because it becomes weird for a man to. What do you mean you don't watch football, or you don't particularly have a favorite sport? Not that you really hate sport. And there's a whole
just
constituency.
Not interested.
Yeah. And your roles are fluid. So because of the nature of life, so you could be in a relationship where your partner is not following sort of like the typical traditional roles. So there was this other guy who was in a sense voiceless, and I found myself identifying him in many respects, because I understood the duality of the public persona, of where when you have a public persona, and I assume you might go through some element of it as a teacher, is people see you as one thing. But then you know yourself quite well, and you're like, oh, no, I'm not that thing that you're portraying me to be. All these sort of inadequacies that people are complaining about, I have them too, So I started realizing that as men, we were not basically allowed to express vulnerability, because all these sort of three pillars were all about showing might, there's a whole range of women that I've encountered that have been very big influences in my life. So, and because if I looked within sort of my own family structures, I had the entire cast of different women. You know, there was the professional woman, you know, the auntie with a PhD. You know, there's the divorced auntie. You know, there's the widows. There's the single cousin who went on and became really prosperous. There's the exact opposite. There was such a wide range of female expression. You know, there's the one who was a second wife. You know, there's the one with a younger husband. There's a whole range of expression. When it came to the men, it was only men who succeeded and those who failed. That tended to be what we exposed to. There's never any sort of in between a guy sort of going off the beaten path. It was always no. You either succeeded, you become a success, which has become a material success, because even academic success in itself was not good enough. It had to be accompanied by material prosperity. So you either became materially successful with all its all visible parts, or you're a failure. So those are the only two sort of dimensions that we're sort of exposed to. For example, if you're not interested in, say, I guess, hardcore material pursuits, or you're not interested in like overachievement in terms of like, say, academically, where did that leave you? You know, so you're then considered unambitious. You know, you're not hungry enough. And so you tended to sort of oscillate in this position of just, you're not man enough, basically. Imagine trying to be a writer in that era.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them.
Yes, how, you know, the idea is, how can a man settle for writing?
Writing, but where's the real job? And like, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Okay, what do you really do? As James Baldwin said, you know, you talk about I write, but okay, but what do you really do?